Well, guys, welcome to Nova Legends podcast. Today, we're doing a bracket show, NCAA tournament show, March Madness. And with me today, I got three tremendous guards, all played Division I basketball. Well, two of the three played in the NCAA tournament, and my boy Brian Allen, he played in the NIT. So, take whatever he says with a grain of salt. But,
exactly.
But we're just here to talk about the tournament. We're not nothing in here condones gambling or anything. We're just talking about the games and kind of giving our opinion of what we may see. So with me today, I have Brian Allen. Brian was class of '85 at South Lakes. I played against him in high school. Tremendous player. He had a sweet pull-up jumper, great defender. Went to Penn State, played for Bruce Parkhill, class of '89. I also have back with me is Keith Jennings, Mr. Jennings. He was a Culpeper class of '87, and then East Tennessee State. Him and his team, they were in NCAA tournament 3 out of the 4 years he was there. They never got that big upset, but they were knocking on the door. And Keith had a tremendous college career and ended up playing overseas. Played for Golden State in the NBA for a couple of years and played overseas. Had a great career overseas. And then we have Frank Smith. Frank was my class he was at Mount Vernon. I was at Robinson, class of '84. Awesome point guard. He was the gold standard. Him and Tommy Amaker just were just the best point guards in the area. Two of the best point guards in the history of the state of Virginia, along with Keith Jennings. But Frankie led his team to the Final Four in the state his last year in high school, along with a guy named Brian Miller, was also a great player. And then Frank surprised everyone and chose basketball over football. Everyone thought he was going to go he was a great option quarterback in Mount Vernon. And at the 11th hour, he says he always knew what was happening, but I think he surprised a lot of people by choosing Old Dominion, and he had a great career. Old Dominion, he was I believe he may have been the assist leader for at least a few years at Old Dominion. Is that true, Frank?
Yeah, my 4 years there, I was the assist leader, and then I finished my career. I think I still am the assist leader, all-time career assist leader. So
yeah.
I get somebody every year talking about how they're gonna break my record. I was like, "Are you playing as a freshman? If you're not, you're not gonna get it."
Real talk.
Yeah. Well, why don't we go around first, and you guys talk a little bit about your careers, and we'll go in the same order. Brian, go first. Talk a little bit about your careers, and then talk about what the student athletes are thinking about now going into a tournament. Now, I wasn't in your shoes, but I can imagine your mid-semester. It's been a long season. So you're tired. You had a conference tournament, and you probably have your schoolwork. You're starting to think about exams going on. What's going on in the players' minds as they look into the postseason? Actually, the end of the postseason. Brian, you want to go first?
Yeah, I might as well go first since I'm the one that never made the big dance. So at Penn State, the year before my class got there, we had only won like 7 or 8 games. So when we got there, our whole thing was we just wanted to lead the program better when we left than when we started. And we ended up achieving that. And we made it to the Atlantic 10 championship game my senior year. Ended up losing to Rutgers in the Atlantic 10 finals because Penn State was in the Atlantic 10 back then. Came out, had a good lead. Our 2 studs got in foul trouble. And that was our chance to make the big dance. But we did get an NIT bid, and just because of where we had come from, we were happy to be playing postseason because it just hadn't happened in so long for Penn State. And we were kind of just riding the wave of, hey, we weren't satisfied that we accomplished our goal. We ended up winning 20 games, but we did accomplish our goal of making postseason and leaving the program in a better position. And the guys that were younger, they ended up going on a run where they won 20 games every year after we left. So playing in the postseason, we had Popeye Jones and Murray State at Rec Hall in State College. We beat them. And then we ended up losing to Doug West Villanova team in the quarterfinals. Really good game. They had Grice was their center. He's a 7-footer. He did all the damage. And so that was my postseason play. So I can't weigh in so much because, these other 2 studs it was old hat for them. For me, we were happy to be in the conversation in the postseason and happy to, at least win our first game and almost had them on the second game. So it was a great experience, and it, got everybody excited. I can't imagine what it would have been like to actually be in the big dance. I could only hear it from the younger guys that played with me when they made it.
Yeah. Well, Ryan also has a great podcast that he puts on his Facebook account, and he also worked in radio for Atlantic 10 for a long time for Penn State as well. So he did as well. So Keith, why don't you go next? I forgot to mention you're the current coach at Lee's McRae, the women's coach at Lee McRae, and you've coached at different places, including Bluefield State down in West Virginia. But why don't you talk about your preparation for your tournaments? And you made some great points before in our podcast that a lot of times it really depends on how far you have to go away from home. I remember one time you were happy that you got to stay in the state of Tennessee, so it wasn't that that long of a trip for you guys to get cross state, and you brought some fans with you.
Right. I think one of the that saying, you never forget your first. So that first time making it to the NCAA tournament, I mean, you got to understand, I'm from a basketball family, so staying up late at night watching the NCAA tournament and watching UVA, Ralph Sampson, and a bunch of the, just area teams. I was always hoping that one day I could play in it. And so when we beat Marshall and we're going into it, I know our frame of mind, we were just sophomores. And so we really didn't know what to expect. We just was willing to put our skills up against whoever else. We were a team, we had a bunch of athletes, one tall guy, just tough guys that, finally got an opportunity. And, we were number 16 seed and we played Oklahoma, and, they beat us 72-71, and we really had them. We was up in the first half, and, eyes get big and you're starting to believe like, man, we really might knock off the number one team. And I fouled out with like 1 minute and 21 seconds left, and they beat us by one. And, that first chance of going there made me want to get back. And, I know you just spoke about, you got to handle your academics and everything, but at that time of the year, I was just locked in on how can we get better and how can we advance, because that's the hoopla of the tournament. That March Madness, that win in advance, you lose, your season's over. That's like, something I'll never forget. And like you said, that next year we played in Knoxville, but we ran into Georgia Tech, Kenny Anderson, them. They smacked us around a little bit. And then my senior year, we went to Minneapolis and we actually got a bad seed. We won 28 games, but they gave us a 10th seed and shipped us out there. So Iowa knocked us out. So it was disappointing not to advance, but then the next year they did upset Arizona and also at 5. So I kind of lived it through them a little bit. But like you said, man, that March Madness time, it was a great time of the year. And every time the tournament comes on, I'm always excited to see what's going to happen.
Well, Frank, you played at Old Dominion, and I believe you played for Oliver Purnell, at least for all 4 years, or at least part of your.
No. I played, when I was at ODU, I played for Paul Webb.
That's right. You're Webb. Okay.
Yeah. And Coach Webb retired after my freshman year. And so the following 3 years, I was with Tom Young, who was he'd come from Rutgers, who had taken Rutgers to the Final Four with Eddie Jordan and those guys.
That's right.
So he was, Tom Young came in my sophomore year, and we actually went to the tournament that year as well. I think that was I shouldn't say the last time, but when we went in '86, there was a long drought until we went when Oliver was the coach in '91. So, but just backing up, my freshman year, we played in the tournament against SMU, and that's when they had John Concack.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, up in Hartford, and they beat us in the first round of that game. The next year, again, was my sophomore year. We played in Greensboro, which of course, we got the Duke Blue Devils in our bracket. So they were the second game that we played. We actually beat West Virginia the first night, and that's what Darryl Prue was on that team as a freshman at West Virginia. And I'll never forget, I always ask Darryl Prue about this. They had a player on their team, I think his name was Holman Harley, really good player. And he came down on a breakaway and he bounced it off the backboard. He bounced it and hit the backboard and he tried to dunk it and he missed it. early in the game,
That's gutsy.
and they took him out. And but he was like their best player. So, but we ended up winning that one. But it was just like, I can't believe he did that.
I know, right? Wow.
But
West Virginia had characters back then because they had E. Shaw on that team too.
yeah. Well, Tyrone wasn't there because he was in junior college. So
That's right. He transferred. That's
yeah,
right.
he didn't come into the next year. Yeah, so I didn't get to play against E in that tournament. But so I'm just trying to write down, trying to remember every time we've been in postseason, and just not just as a player, but as a coach, because after those first 2 years at ODU as a player, the third year we were terrible. We were like 6-22, and just really bad because we had lost the year before. I was like the only returning starter and only one out of our top 7. And we were very experienced. We lost Kenny Gadsden, who was a senior who played in the NBA for a long time, and some other players that played overseas and that kind of thing. So we were really good, and we were experienced my sophomore year. And then I lost those guys, and then we had a whole crew come in the next year, and we just weren't very good. We were too young. My fourth year, my senior year, we went to the NIT and lost at Ohio State in that year. So it was a great experience as a player, just getting back to postseason. I think, your question on what you're going through, I think you're just kind of waiting to see where you're going to go. And you got to remember back then when I was a freshman and sophomore at ODU, we were playing in the Sun Belt Conference, which they're going back to now. But we were getting 3 and 4 teams in it every year. So it wasn't like a one bid league back then. Sun Belt was really good. So UAB was good. They were going to the tournament yearly. VCU was pretty good. Matter of fact, they beat us my freshman year in the tournament championship with Calvin Duncan and Orlando Lamb and those guys, Mike Brown. They were really good. So, you would get 3 or 4 teams from the Sun Belt in the tournament. The second year, they had Jacksonville win with Otis Smith and some other guys that were really talented. So Sun Belt back then was a much different league than what it is now. So, but I think as you get ready for those games and you're preparing just to kind of see where you're going. And, as a freshman, it's new to you, so you don't really know. And then it happens the first 2 years, you expect to go every year, which I obviously didn't have my sophomore or my junior year. But it was good. It was a good experience. You got to keep up with academics and all that stuff. And some of it kind of goes by the wayside. You try to keep up, but you just want to play. Yeah. You get out there and you got open practices and everybody's coming out to see you. You're only on the floor for maybe an hour, but it's an open practice for the most part. And people are out checking you out, and media's there. You get all this attention. You're doing press conferences that you never did. No matter who you are, and they take care of you from a travel standpoint. And I can put on my NCAA hat now, but because you charter. Yeah. And back then a lot of schools didn't charter. Even today, a lot of schools don't charter, but you charter to the games, and it was a great experience in terms of that. As a coach, it was a little different because you're on a different side of it, trying to get guys ready and kind of feel what they're going through. At ODU, the first year we went to ODU, which was, like I said, Oliver's first year, we won the tournament. We upset Richmond and JMU, and we ended up going to play Kentucky up north somewhere. I can't remember where, but they had Jamal Mashburn, and that was a team that beat that Duke beat with the Leighton shot. Remember Leighton hit the shot.
Oh, that's right.
So we played them in the first round at ODU. Nobody expected us to be there. But so it was a good year. The next 2 years, we were either regular season champions or co-champions and lost in the tournament. We got upset by East Carolina the second year. And the third year, we lost to JMU. Last second shot, Kaluko hit a shot from 3 to beat us. So we ended up going to the NIT those 2 years. And that was a little disappointing because we were really good at ODU those last couple of years with Odell Hodge, P.D. Sessoms. Of course, you remember after we left there and Oliver took the job at Dayton, they went on and beat Villanova with P.D. Sessoms that when they upset them in like double overtime or triple overtime or whatever it was. So, and then we go to Dayton, try and get that going. We go to NIT a couple of times. We actually played Penn State in the NIT one year. It was a game to go to New York, and we ended up losing to Penn State. And we had a couple of those where we were, because of the Dayton crowd, even with the first going on tonight, we always got home games at Dayton because they knew we was, sell out, and that was the case. And but we just couldn't get over the hump. So we might play the first couple games at home, and then we had one more game to go before moving to New York for the Final Four, and we would lose. We lost to Penn State one year, and we lost to Detroit one year. But you know, it's an amazing time because everybody's trying to get somewhere. You know, trying to get somewhere. And even when we got to Clemson, same thing. We, you know, NIT a couple of years, and then that 3-year run when we went to the tournament. You know, lost to Missouri, lost to Michigan, lost to Villanova in the first round, but we were, you know, pretty good. So I've been on both sides where were you a favorite or were you with a lower seed or and the higher seed. So at Dayton, we were a 4 seed. We were that good at Dayton, and we got upset by Tulsa that year. We were a 4 seed and got upset. So a lot of stuff going on. You know, you like I say, just trying to keep guys focused. Like I said, it's kind of hard because it's just a lot of stuff you haven't experienced before. And from a media standpoint, the chartering and all that stuff for the most part, the fans are there. You know, you just want to try and get to the next round and survive. So, but it's a heck of an experience. It's just a heck of an experience. And, you know, but once you lose, you out of there. They put you on the charter, you get home.
Yeah,
Oh,
They need those planes.
Get your your studies.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
also, guys, college environments are also hostile, either for or against. And when you go to the NCAA tournament or even NIT, you know, the crowd is a lot of the crowd are just folks that bought tickets for the whole tournament. So it's a completely different environment, I would think, than what you're used to, where either everyone's cheering for you or everyone's jeering you. What is it like playing on a neutral court? Is it a big difference, or once you start playing, you don't even think about it? Anyone can go first.
Well, I think, you know, I'll go first, but like, for instance, I'm going to the game Thursday here in Indianapolis. So, you know, we've had those tickets through the job, but, you know, we've had those for a while now, not knowing who's going to play.
Yeah.
You know, what teams are going to be sent here. So I think sometimes teams can get an advantage if they're close by in a certain region. You know, if Duke's always playing in Greensboro, you know, they have a pretty you know, big group of fans. So, but I don't know. I can't remember who's playing here, but I don't know if anybody.
You got Michigan, you got Delaware, Colorado. Michigan's playing Colorado State.
Yeah.
Tennessee and Longwood, Ohio State and Loyola, Chicago, Villanova, and Delaware.
So Loyola.
I'm sorry, no. Ohio State, Loyola, Villanova. That's how Pittsburgh.
Those Big Ten
Indianapolis is.
teams, the Big Ten teams will be well represented here. They'll be well
Michigan.
represented, so they'll have a little bit of a home court advantage, but not much. And plus, you're playing on a pro floor most of the time. So, you know, for like those Big Ten teams, they just play here in the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis. So they probably know that floor better than anybody.
The floor is different than a college floor. The pro floor is different.
No, it's not different. I'm saying they played the Big Ten tournament in the same arena playing this week. It's the same tournament, same arena. Yeah. So they've got a little bit of an advantage in playing in the tournament.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to having maybe fans travel, they can definitely help you. Like I said, when we played in Knoxville and Johnson City, only like an hour and some change from there, we knew it was going to be a good opportunity for a lot. And we had some loyal fans, you know, so we knew it would be nothing for maybe 2,000 to 3,000 to travel and follow us up there. And even though having that support, you know, Georgia Tech was just, you know, built different that year, and it was tough to win. But like I said, I think when it comes to the fans, a lot of times it's just their preference. You know, a lot of times they want to go for the underdog. You know, they want to see the upset. That's what feeds into more of the madness. But, you know, I just think, you know, real good basketball at that time of the year is what prevails for most of the teams that advance. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, let's look at the brackets a little bit. You know, one thing I find interesting, and you know, these play-in games. I guess it's a phenomenon of the last 10 years or so. But they're not only like 16 seeds. You got 11 seeds playing. So you got Notre Dame. I believe they were the second seed in the ACC tournament against Rutgers, and then you have a 12 seed playing Wyoming and Indiana. So if you're those teams, do you want to play in a playing game because at least you have a winnable game, or would you rather come right in and play against, you know, Baylor, or you know, if you're in the 11th seed playing against a 5th seed? Do you think the playing game is a good deal for a team or a tough deal?
Well, I think the fact that they've have the playing game now, that allows more teams to get in. That's the one advantage. I think when they first started, if I remember correctly, a lot of times it seemed like it was teams that were coming from some of the lower level leagues. So you might even see two HBCUs playing both, in the playing game. So I was surprised at Notre Dame going in the playing game when they were second, like you said, in the ACC. But I think it's a great opportunity for more teams to get in. You hope it don't. There's talk about expanding it even more. I don't know if that's the answer, because you don't water down the thing. But again, it's in Dayton, Ohio. Again, another place where those tickets, most of them are sold before they even know who's going to play there, because they know they get the crowd, and that's why they have it. So it's a great atmosphere, because again, they really take care of them, and Dayton knows how to host a tournament event. So it'll be good. But I think if you can get in, no matter how you get in, you just have that you got. They've changed some rules over the last couple of years to try not to put the teams that are playing in those games at a disadvantage, because I think they had one year, it might have been Clemson, was playing in the playing game, and then they had to play like a really early game in the next game. And they had to travel for a long distance to get there. So they were a little bit of at a disadvantage. So I think they've changed the rule now where if the team that wins that game is not at a disadvantage for their actual first round game, so to speak.
I'm liking it because you got Ron Harper Jr. playing for Rutgers, who's been fun to watch this year. And then Brian has that dude, Peter Kiss, who, led the nation in scoring, I believe. He's a little showboaty, but I love his game. So that'll make it fun to watch those games.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the opportunity to get in. I mean, of course, we know it's certain teams that definitely believe they can win it, but then you got certain teams that are happy to be there and hoping to maybe draw some attention to themselves. So it's that opportunity to at least get a chance to get on a run, because winning 6 games is tough. That playing game, you got to win 7. So that's really going to be tough for us. Like I said, I think they just got to appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and I will say this, going back, I think, like you said, just trying to get in, because everybody has that watch party, so to speak. And everybody's watching to make sure. Most of the team know they're going to get in, but there are some that don't know. So one year at Dayton, we were one of those teams that were having a watch party. Now, we did it privately, but we were the last name called. So our guys didn't know we were going. And the coach, we were told by the administrator that we were going, that we were in, but the players didn't know. So you can imagine sitting there sweating it out, and we're the last name called, and they just went crazy, and that's part of the experience.
Yeah, I bet you.
That's part of the experience.
It's like American Idol when you get the ticket to Hollywood. So, well, how about like the way they structure these conference tournaments? Some teams get like double buys. I don't understand this, but if you're at Virginia Tech, you had to play 4 games to get into the tournament, because if they didn't win the tournament, they weren't going to get in. But is it better to have lost early and get in, because then you're not as tired, you might not have as many injuries, or would you rather be Tech, have to win 4 games, even if you lost that game, you got in, and at least you're playing well? What's better, to come in fresh or to come in off some wins?
Probably depends on the personnel, I'm thinking.
Right.
Because if you got some cagey veterans, and maybe they're a little banged up, it's in your advantage to have some time off. But if you're like Virginia Tech, who's like kind of on the roll, you don't want time off. You want to get back out there and play, right?
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, like this part of the year, everybody's going to have some type of injuries, little boo-boos, things that you're going to have to fight through. So it's like you just said, if you winning, you kind of want to keep playing, because that rhythm, I think the rhythm of the game is underrated. I think if you find a good rhythm, you and your teammates and y'all rolling, you never know what you can do, But when you win and then you stop for a minute and now you got to try to pick it back up, that's that we hope we can do it factor, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think, Virginia Tech's case, they were playing with nothing to lose. and everybody that they were playing against started feeling that pressure. You know, they had no pressure. You know, they're just going to go out there and play, and you know their style of play. They don't use a lot of bodies. So, you know, Coach Young he did a great job, I think, using his bench, you know, as best as he could with the guys that he had. But they didn't, you know, they slowed things down a little bit. They played at their tempo, and they were able to dictate, you know, pacing. And they, you know, if you're a team like, you know, when we were at Clemson, we were pressing. And so if you're pressing every night, that can really take a toll on you.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so, you know, trying to do that back to back to back, you know, we got to the conference final at Clemson one year, and but we pressed every night. And I don't think it had an effect on losing in the final that year. But, you know, if you get into the tournament, like I said, if you're playing well, you just want to keep playing. But you just got to rest those guys. You know, maybe they don't do so much in practice that week or whatever before game.
Let me ask you this: what do you think? This is just my opinion, but it seems like Duke is they're not playing to their potential, and it's almost like, you know, because Coach K is leaving, he's like the substitute teacher, and they're not playing at the level they should be playing. That's my interpretation of it, anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Man, aren't they still kind of young? I think Duke is a young team still, right? I think
they're young.
we get thrown into that mystique of Duke getting to the Final Four all the time, and you're a young team. I think that's, you know, that hurts them to an extent. But maybe we can pull it together. We'll see.
They're young, and I don't know if they have the talent level that guys that were 1 and done, 2 and done, that were, you know, that they had a couple pros, and, you know, they were able to carry that load. They don't have that kind of roster. Right. So I just think and there might have been a lot of pressure on them with the Coach K stuff too.
But I think they got a couple young pros. I think they got some guys that could possibly.
And Carroll's a lottery pick.
Yeah. I mean, so, but you just, like I said, this part of the year, when you playing against some older guys that's been there for 4 years, and they know this will be their last time hooping all together. There ain't gonna be no NBA or overseas win that thing. And if you run into that team, any young team, they got to be ready to fight for their lives.
Yeah, you compare them to the team with Okafor and those guys that wanted. You had like 3 or 4 pros that were in the starting lineup that year, you know, and those guys were ready. They were ready to go move on. They remember they went to the NBA the next year.
Yeah.
Duke doesn't have kind of roster. Right. They're talented, but you said they're young.
Right.
Yeah. Well, how about the fact that this year the average age of the teams are going to be a little bit higher than normal, just because everyone got a COVID year. So, you know, obviously some of the teams are young, and the portal makes it so like, you know, you may not want to go with young players now. You may want to go with veterans, but everyone's getting an extra year. So when you think about it, the team should be a little bit stronger this year, just because, you know, a lot of these guys, like there was a guy, and what's the big guy playing for Carolina? He transferred over from Oklahoma. You got these, you know, 23-year-old seniors playing now.
Yeah. I think that's what people are trying to do for the most part is they're trying to get older quicker. And obviously the COVID year helped, and the transfer portal helps, you know, so that takes away from some of the high school kids. You know, you'd rather have a, you know, guy that's got a couple years under his belt and he transfers as opposed to an incoming freshman. So that definitely has the ability to make a team a lot better and a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to have a guy on your staff at the college level that's almost like the GM, who's like kind of scouting all these dudes that are in the transfer portal and use it to your advantage. Because, you know, you're going to lose some kids from your team, but you just got to be able to fill in and snatch somebody from the portal that can contribute right away. I know, even though Penn State isn't in postseason, and they, you know, they did very well in the transfer portal this year, snatching a couple guys who had some experience and could contribute right away.
Well, that's key, experience, because anytime you can, like you just said, do you want a freshman who could possibly be a star one day, or do you want a possible all-conference player that get down that's already proven it? I mean, I probably go with the all-conference guy, the older guy. So that experience that you gain in those other games will definitely help your new program. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Frank knows Jason Coleman. He played at Lake Braddock against his brother Barry, but his kid goes to Flint Hill, and he plays there. And they have 3 or 4 Division I, bubble type prospects. They have this kid 6'8" with a 6'11" arm span, can dunk in traffic, and he doesn't have a Division I offer yet. And it's just because all the schools are waiting; they're going to the transfer portal. I mean,
Yeah.
Could you imagine when we play, guys? If you were 6'8" and you had long arms and you could dunk, I mean, you'd have Division I offer, easy. I mean, if you were 6'6" or 6'7", you had Division I offer. Basically.
Yeah, right.
And
Right.
I think these colleges are waiting for older kids to come transfer in.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, time is of the essence for these coaches. I mean, they got to win now. So
Yes.
let's get the most experienced players that I can get and try and, maybe compete against younger guys, at other schools. So they're definitely using the portal. And I think some schools are actually emptying, the fact that they may lose their kids to the portal. They're recruiting them to that. Hey, come play with us for a year or two. We'll get you ready if you want to go play in the SEC. Or
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
it's a recruiting pitch. Because
Yeah.
they're not getting the looks that they think they should be getting from the Power 5 schools. So now you come in and you're with a Dayton or Radford or whatever. You say, hey, we know you got aspirations of playing here or there. Come here for a year or two. We'll get you developed, and then if you want to go that route, I'll help you. So it's kind of at least you expect it, and I think every coach goes into it now at the end of every season, thinking about, okay, I could lose this person or that person to the portal.
Wow.
Yeah, the portal's not going anywhere, so you might as well, work it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sure no rules are being broken, so I'm sure.
If they do, Frankie will catch him.
Well, as I tell people all the time, things that happen that in terms of breaking rules and violations, that kind. I say we don't know unless people tell us.
Right.
So unless someone tells us, how are we supposed to know? And
Exactly.
But it does happen with the tampering. That's a big part of it.
Right.
And that's why I shouldn't say people, but there have been talk of, let's eliminate the handshake after the game, that kind of thing, because that's a lot of times that's when it's happening.
Yeah.
Guy gets 30 on you and you're going like, man, great game. I sure wish I had you on my team.
Wow. That's
so,
like the drive-by killing right there. Whoa.
That's kind of what's going on, in playing. But it's hard to, to see who's doing it unless someone tells us. I mean, it's just tough. So the tampering is a big part of it, unfortunately. But that's just one aspect of it, from the tampering.
But can you imagine how the power has gone away from the coaches? So in the old days, the coach doesn't play you, might not be even nice to you, but if you transfer, you got to sit out a year. But nowadays, the coach is not being that nice to you, don't like what's going on, you're gone, and right away. And it just seems to me as a coach, you got to constantly be recruiting your own players. You got to, if so-and-so's mad at you, you go to sleep, oh man, I was mean to Frankie yesterday at practice. I'm gonna call him tomorrow. I'm gonna call him and apologize.
Yeah, that's something you definitely got to consider as a coach. I think on that level, on our level, as soon as one wants to leave, even at here at least McCray, I'm getting emails every day. Like we just said, it's girls that aren't getting opportunities because people are using that COVID year. And like you just said, coaches want to bring players back, but if not, trust me, it's that building process is still going to be there.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, you guys can relate to this, but I think that point, I learned early on that even though I could be having a pretty good year at ODU, they want to bring in somebody to take my spot every year. So I had to be ready to keep my spot. That's how programs continue to do well year in and year out. They have players that are talented. So, and they're not bringing in someone who's going to sit, so you got to continue to improve your game or someone will take your spot. And fortunate enough that it didn't happen to me. But I came in as a freshman and they had a senior point guard and I ended up starting, midway through the season and never left the position. So But I think as a coach, you want to be able to coach them hard, but then you got to love them up just as much.
Yeah.
You got to have somebody that loves them up just as much, and then have them understand, like, listen, he's on you like that because he cares and thinks you can do better, so on and so forth, and explain it. But that's like you said, end of the year, you got to, think about who's going to transfer, and what they might be trying to do, and it might not be the best situation for them to transfer.
Right.
But they're going to look at that and say, hey, maybe I can do something else a little bit better, at a bigger level, another school, or what have you. So you got to recruit your players all over again.
Yep.
A little good cop, bad cop, right?
Yeah.
So Keith, are you the good cop or the bad cop on your staff?
Hey, we don't have a big staff, so I'm both. And the thing I try to get my girls to realize is, understand, I'm two different people. I'm Coach J, and that basketball side, I'm gonna get on you. But the man, we can be cool. Come by the office. Don't get that twisted. Don't make the man the coach you mad at, because that's where we have the problems at. So it's a challenge. It definitely is.
Yeah. Well, this is great, guys. I get the perspective of guys who've actually been through it. Three great players. Well, let's kind of go to the brackets a little bit, and we can continue the dialogue while we do that. Why don't we start on the West? And I think a lot of people think Gonzaga is the favorite to win the whole thing. Coach Mark Few, they got a big guy, Chet Holmgren, and I mean, this is not the best. This is the best Gonzaga team they've ever had, but they're experienced. They're playing well. It looks like they're in the same bracket as Duke to get to the Final Four, and as the ACC is not highly rated this year, so we don't really know what Duke team will even show up, and whether that will be even the team that will advance. But does anyone have any opinions of the West bracket?
Go ahead,
Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just going to say, if it's going to be, Gonzaga's been so close so many years, and if you look at the bracket, they have, and this is also part of the transfer portal. I just think there's so much parity. They have just as good a chance as Duke. I just don't think Duke is playing up to their potential.
Duke
Michigan
beat them
State
earlier this year, right? Didn't Duke beat Gonzaga earlier this year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they just don't seem to be meshing right now. With
Right.
Coach Izzo, you never want to count him out, and he doesn't have the most talented team, but they seem to always be tournament ready when the time comes.
Brian, that's what we used to always say about Michigan State, but now everyone's always ready for them. So they haven't been able to get that up. They haven't been able to get that upset lately. Because I always pick Michigan State in my brackets because they're always like this team that overachieved. Now everyone looks at Michigan State and they're getting ready for Michigan State. They're getting ready for Izzo. So
I like the Zags in that.
Yeah,
I like them too.
Bracket.
Go ahead, Coach.
Go ahead, right?
Yeah, I like them. I just watching them play in the tournament, that kind of thing. I mean, they got all the components. They got experience. With the other big kid who's just named second team All-American. Tim, yeah, he's pretty good. They got good guard play, which you need. And, it was just amazing to see the big kid, the young freshman, bring the ball up the court and make shots and make plays. I just love that. So
Chat, all 165 pounds of them.
Yeah, exactly. You can blow him and blow him over, right? But I think that they're playing pretty well. I don't see a lot of teams in this bracket that are like playing at just so much better than they are. So, but I think as you get closer and closer, it's going to be a matter of that pressure on Gonzaga. They haven't won the big one and that kind of thing. And if some other teams are starting to play well, so I know Arkansas was playing well for a minute.
Yeah.
Michigan State did get some wins.
Texas Tech is playing well.
Texas Tech, and they will defend you. And that's another thing.
Right.
Texas Tech will defend you. So but Gonzaga's got all the components, I think, to go to the Final Four and do some damage.
I agree with y'all. I think it's a solid bracket. Like you said, some of these teams were playing really well at certain parts of the season, but we all know you want to be playing your best at the end of the season. So I will be surprised, but I won't say I'll be surprised if Gonzaga makes it through, but upsets happen. You know what I'm saying? So, Arkansas could maybe scare them. Texas Tech could maybe scare them. Duke. I mean, you just never know, man. That one night that ball don't go in the hoop could be your last night. So
Memphis is a team that's young, but they've
dangerous.
got athleticism. You know, I follow Baylor a little bit because they've got that special, but they follow them around on ESPN. That follows their team every week. And they had a number of different injuries as well. So I don't know how many of those guys are coming back, but they've lost like 3 or 4 key guys at Baylor, and they're still playing pretty well. So they could be, you know, in the mix too, depending on, and they're the defending champions.
Right.
And do you guys know if this is Penny Hardaway's first tournament, or has he been in?
Yeah, this
in the tournament last year?
He wasn't one last. Well, I don't think he went last year or the COVID year when they canceled. I don't know if he would have gone. But I think this is his first NCAA tournament.
So I'm just curious to what kind, you know, him being a former outstanding college player at Memphis and being a pro. I'm just wondering how he's going to get his team ready. I'm wondering if that playing experience that he's had and that he's been in, if that's going to possibly do some things for him as far as Boise State and then maybe Gonzaga. I'm just curious about that.
Well, he's got Larry Brown on his bench.
Oh,
Yes.
Larry Brown's one of his assistants. So,
that's cool.
I mean, and he had Rasheed Wallace was there for, but I think he left this year.
He probably got some technical fouls.
So, yeah.
You know what's interesting about Hardaway is, you know, we always think about coaches as being point guards or guards. Generally, that's who have been the coaches. But now you got Juwan Howard, you got Hardaway, you got Patrick Ewing. It's interesting that other players are becoming big-time coaches. You know, you always think of, like, you know, Larry Brown, Dean Smith was a good guard. All these George Karl was a great guard. You know, on and on and on. But it's interesting that you got big guys becoming coaches too. And it's also a function that big guys are playing away from the basket nowadays too. I mean, big guys, the basketball has changed, so all 5 players are interchangeable to some degree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You can't disrespect the big guys' thought process, you know.
Exactly.
Some of them know what they're talking about. You know, I enjoy chatting with the big fellas that really know the game. You know, it just makes it easier.
Yeah.
But I think if you got a guy with that can score inside and get you a bucket, you know, that helps along the way as well. Because you know, no matter who you are, you're gonna have some jitters coming out of the gate for the tournament. And you know, you might be on a basket that you're unfamiliar with, but I think if you can get some scoring inside, some guys, the guy at Virginia Tech, you know, those guys play well together. The guys that you know we talk about it, but Iowa, I mean, they're big guys, really play well together, and they can shoot. And we talked about Gonzaga's guys. I think the last time they had the tournament here, I saw Gonzaga with the kid Timmy, and he really played well.
I think I did a podcast with Joe Harrington, the old former George Mason coach, and he was talking about he thinks the big guys are going to rise again, and the game's going to evolve again. But it'll be interesting. But let's go east. Frankie already mentioned that Baylor has some injuries, but they are the defending champions, and you know, coached by Scott Drew. They're definitely going to be a threat. This region is interesting to me because you do have Norfolk State, you have North Carolina coached by local product Hubert Davis, and then you got Virginia Tech. And so this is we got some Virginia teams here. UCLA is in this bracket as well. Do you guys give Norfolk State any chance of upsetting Baylor? If I'm Baylor, I'm not happy to play Norfolk State in the first round. What do you guys think about the East bracket?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, like I said, I don't know who's going to be playing for Baylor, if any of those guys coming back. But Norfolk State is a tough out in the first round. I think they've been there before. I think this is the second year in a row going to the tournament and does a pretty good job with that program. So it won't be easy. And again, they're the defending champions. So there's that added pressure with some guys that may not have been there last year, but now they're expected to, keep the title, so to speak. So I think in the end, Baylor will get them, but I don't think it'll be an easy game.
And 1-16 is not like the old school 1-16 anymore.
It's not like it used to be. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. I think those teams like Norfolk State that got experience. You're right. I don't think you want to play a team like that because they have nothing to lose. If you've been a part of a team that go into a game and you ain't got nothing to lose. Sometimes that carefree attitude, if you get going, the momentum, you know, that Uncle Mo, when he on your side, it's hard. So that's going to be interesting. But like I said, Baylor, you the defending champs. I think you should be able to find a way.
Yeah. Well, if you're
What I'm looking at is the Yale Purdue game.
Mhm.
If I'm Yale, I go right at those two big dudes, get them in. Purdue has Edie and Williams, and you get them in foul trouble. It's a whole different game, and all you need is one game.
Right.
That's what I would do if I was Yale. I'd go right at them, try to get 2 fouls real quick. Purdue's obviously they're playing well, but don't sleep on the Ivy.
Purdue always has big guys.
Yeah.
Always has big guys. You know, that's their thing.
What about
7-4.
Kentucky? What about Kentucky? You guys like Kentucky? I think that monster that they got in there that's rebounding that ball. I think they seem like this is one of the teams kind of under the radar, so to speak. You know, you always hear about how outstanding these young players are, but this year it seems like it's more of a hard-working type of Kentucky team. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
I think you're right. I don't think, again, the talent level is what you're accustomed to with Kentucky. You know, the one guy that you talked about, the All-American, I think he's got like so many straight double-doubles that he's going to give you that every night. I think with them, it's all about how well they defend and how well they shoot the ball from the outside. And in any of these games, it's all about putting the ball in the basket. I mean, you got to put the basket. You know, if you can't do that, then you're going to struggle. So not a lot of teams can overcome a bad shooting night. You know, there are a few that'll defend well enough, but Kentucky's one of those teams that they got a guy inside that'll get them a double every night. So they got a shot. I think they're advancing pretty far though.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, if you're Texas, you can't be happy to see Virginia Tech. So you get a 6th seed, which is puts you in the top 25 in the nation about, and you got to play Tech, who's just beaten the number 1, 2, and 3 seeds in the ACC tournament. Right. That's going to be a good matchup.
I'm liking Tech.
Yeah.
Well, hey, like we just said, Texas, I just saw a stat where they like number 5 in the country in defense.
Yes.
They're going to defend you.
They're going to defend.
And as much as I'm a homebody, I kind of wanted to see Virginia continue. I kind of rolled with Texas on that one, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia Tech keeps it going.
That's going to be a good game, I think.
Yeah. And they got a coach that's been there. He was in the he's had some success in the tournament when he was at Texas Tech. But I think Texas will defend you. And the guards from Virginia Tech, I can't remember the one guard that had all the points, but he shot the lights out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they hadn't scouted him or hadn't seen him or what. He was like getting a lot of wide open looks in the tournament. So, but Texas will defend you.
Yeah.
And that can maybe, balance out that shooting for Virginia Tech. Because I don't know what else they get their scoring. If that guy doesn't shoot the lights out, they're going to struggle to score.
That's a long team. They athletes. Sometimes I kind of lead towards them athletic long teams that can contest a lot of shots. I think that can. But like you said, if they're not making them on the other end, that's where it can be tricky.
Yeah, I think one of the sleepers in this bracket is UNC, just because you never know which team is going to show up. UNC, they can win by 30 one night and they can lose by 30. I mean, it is the most erratic team. I think all in all, the trend has been positive, but you never know who's going to show up. So we could be heading towards a Baylor UNC matchup in the second round. Yeah,
and UNC could possibly beat them, like you just said. If they play at a level like when they played against Duke, so to speak, I think they can beat a lot of teams. Man, their high game. I think any team that has a good inside presence gives themselves a chance.
Yeah, I don't know much about Marquette. I haven't really seen them play this year that much, even though, my guy Shaka's the head coach there who's been on staff with me. Well, I've been on staff with him, I should say, since he's the head coach now. But, so, I haven't seen them, but I know their style of play from him being at VCU and the success he had there. So they'll be ready,
Right.
They'll definitely be ready. They'll defend, and you're not going to out-hustle his teams. So, again, Carolina did play well, and they shot the ball well. And Baycott had a couple good games as well. So he's a presence inside. That's definitely got to be an advantage for them.
Yeah, right. He's a different looking type of ball player, Baycott. So why don't we go to the let's go south, and the top seed is Arizona, and they're coached by Tommy Lloyd, who's a who's a Mark Few protege from Gonzaga, and he seems like Arizona's was a surprise. They came out of nowhere to be a 1 seed. You know, you got Villanova, always tough in that bracket, and then you have a really interesting game in terms of coaches. You got 3rd seed Tennessee with Rick Barnes and 14th seed Longwood, local team, coached by Griff Aldridge, which is an interesting story. Here's like an investment banker type guy, venture capital type guy, who decided late in life he wanted to get into coaching, and took a job, $40,000 job in coaching, and then 2 or 3 years later got the head job in Longwood, and he's got Longwood in. I think the first time in school history Longwood is in the Big Dance, I believe.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a game that I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, but Griff was with UMBC when they upset Virginia.
That's right, he was.
He was on the staff.
And he was the guy that recruited the guy from Puerto Rico. Remember they had that guard from Puerto Rico.
The guard.
Oh
Yeah. So I mean, it's a long shot. I watched Longwood play in the Big South tournament a little bit.
Yeah, I did too.
And they play pretty well. I mean,
they get after you. They get after you.
Get after you, but I think in the end, I don't think they'll win. But it's great for their program. I think both their men and women's programs are going to the tournament, which is unbelievable for that at that level. So, but he'll be ready. I mean, he's had the experience of playing against a higher seeded team, except when they beat Virginia a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
This bracket for me, I don't know. It was something about Arizona. I mean, I hear they're good, but I don't know. I just think this might be one of the number ones that gets knocked off. And I guess I'm gonna have to wait and see. But I like Seton Hall. I mean, I'm not saying Seton Hall will beat Arizona, but their style of play, those teams like Seton Hall, Providence, Tennessee athletes, tough guys that can get after you. I really like their chances. So this is gonna be an interesting bracket, I think.
Yeah, don't sleep on Villanova.
Right.
Yeah. The kid from Arizona.
Championship pedigree.
Yeah, the kid from Arizona, that guy's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I mean, he's long. I mean, he blocks shots. He scores. He's pretty good. So,
Okay.
I mean,
He's a pro.
they got that ranking for a reason.
Okay.
They played well in the tournament.
Yeah, they're no fluke, but
Okay.
it's just a different coach and that kind of thing. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do in the tournament.
Right.
So if we go to the Midwest,
Tennessee, you think Tennessee will be a sleeper? You think Tennessee will be a sleeper or no? I mean, I know once you win your conference tournament, to win the whole national tournament, I know that has to be a crazy winning streak. But do you think Tennessee is capable of doing something like that?
Again, I think they are because they will defend you. And they could have easily been a 2 seed instead of a 3.
Right.
But they will defend you. And I think, with the schedule that they play throughout the year, I think they've got to be a team that could advance. I don't know if they're a Final Four team, but they could. Coach Barnes does a pretty good job there. So,
yeah.
And they've got some talent, obviously. They really got some talent.
Yep, I agree.
let's go. Let's wrap up with the Midwest bracket. Kansas is the top seed. Bill Self, coach, always ready, always got size, always play hard. The interesting local team in that bracket is Richmond. They were a 6th seed in the nearby Atlantic 10 tournament.
Did you see that game? That was a great game.
I didn't see the game, no. But another surprise Virginia team in the tournament. I mean, we got Longwood, Richmond, Norfolk State, and Tech. I mean, who would have ever had those 4 teams going to the big game?
Right.
And they got Iowa. So what do you guys think about the Midwest?
So I saw Iowa play a couple times here in the tournament. And they're pretty good. Like I said, they've got 2 big kids that can really play. And they don't just play with their backs to the basket.
Right.
They'll shoot threes and that kind of thing. And they've got some guards that can really shoot it as well. So, they beat Purdue in the final of the conference tournament the other day. So they're playing pretty well right now. So I mean, I wouldn't discount Iowa. So
Iowa's one of those teams that you would probably say, hey, we want to play tomorrow, because they are definitely on the roll.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have, like you said, I think, just imagine, because I got 2 brothers. If I was to be able to play in the national tournament with one of my brothers, I think Iowa has I know they're identical.
The Murrays, Keegan.
Yeah, the
and,
Murrays. One of them's a lefty, one of them's a righty. I think that type of family bond going into that type of situation could make them do a little something. Like you said, they just won the conference tournament and they scored a ball. Now I know we talk about a lot of defense, but buckets. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can carry that role on, because like we say, it's one and done right now. It's just going to be some tightness out there if people aren't careful.
Yeah. They played pretty well. They got lucky and beat Indiana with a shot.
Yeah.
Bank shot from almost half court with as the shot clock was going off, and with a long defender in his face. So they got lucky. Which you're gonna need some luck in this tournament.
Yeah, no doubt.
Need some things to go your way to move on at some point. So but they're good. I really like the way they play.
I think at the bottom of the bracket, Auburn and Wisconsin, I think they're dangerous teams. I think, those conferences, you get battle tested in those spots. So it's going to be interesting to see if Auburn can, they were successful, like you said, all season. They were kind of solid. But then I think towards the end of the season, a couple of bad losses maybe. But I'm wondering if they're going to be able to pick it back up, because they're really athletic too.
Yeah, very athletic. They're very athletic. Jabari Smith is a pro. Some are saying he's a top 5 pick in this year's draft. So, and they got some other athletes out, some other players, and they've done pretty well. I think Wisconsin, it depends on, the Davis kid. I don't know if he's 100%. I know he took a hard foul a couple games ago. I don't know the extent of that injury, but from what I understand, he was not himself in the tournament when they played. So, and he's actually the son of Mark Davis, who I played with at ODU. And Mark was a senior when I was a freshman. And Mark actually played with the Bucks for maybe a year or two.
Remember that name,
Yeah.
And that just makes us old, Frankie.
Oh yeah, it's old. And then also his uncle, Mark's brother, Garrett, played with me. He came in ODU with me. So, a lot of talent, and his brother's on that team too. He got, I think they're twins.
Oh wow!
There's a twin brother on that team as well. He doesn't see as much playing time, but yeah. But
that's the fun part. Yeah, that's the fun part of the tournament, is those guys that you don't get to see play. Like Steph, when Steph showed out for Davidson. That's what I like. This Peter Kiss kid, I want to see them, like win tomorrow and at least get another game. I think they play against Arizona if they won at Bryant. Yeah.
I think the Midwest is interesting also because you got 3 teams from the Big Ten in there, and I guess the Big Ten got the most teams in the tournament. But you got Iowa, Iowa State's Big Ten, right? Or is that big?
No.
Big 12.
That's Big 12. That's right.
Oh.
And then you got
Wisconsin.
You got Wisconsin in there. So from what I'm reading, the Big Ten is supposed to be the power conference. So maybe those 2 teams can threaten.
Yeah, I think they got 9 teams out of the Big Ten, something like that. So, but they just had a bruising tournament, and that that sometimes that takes an effect on you too. It can take its toll.
Yep.
You've been 3 or 4 days Big Ten tournament, all that bumping and grinding. So, again, you gotta be healthy. You gotta have some luck. And have the ball bounce your way. So they haven't done well, in the last couple of tournaments, I don't believe, from a percentage standpoint with the Big Ten. But there's some teams that are capable of playing well and doing well. Purdue is capable of playing well. They got the kid Ivy, who's they say is
he's pro.
Yeah,
he's a lottery.
Yeah. So it's gonna be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I think it is.
Well, guys, let's just wrap up real quickly. We'll pick your Final Four and your winner if you'd like. I'll start off. I'm gonna go with Gonzaga in the East. I'm gonna go with UCLA. I'm sorry, in the East. The Gonzaga in the West. I'm gonna go with Tennessee in the South, and I'm gonna go with Kansas in the Midwest. And then my overall winner is going to be UCLA to avenge last year.
Ooh, that's big. That's okay. And they're talented. You're right. They're talented.
Yeah.
They've
I like
been
the way
there.
they play. Yeah.
Yeah, some of those guys have been there. So
Yeah.
I'm not picking anybody. I don't show any favoritism. I can't.
You can't. Yeah. You're 5-0. So you can't.
I went with usually I don't pick so many number ones, but I guess I went with a little bit more of the experience this year. So I got Gonzaga and Baylor. and then I got Tennessee and Kansas. Then I got Gonzaga and Kansas, and then Kansas winning it.
Kansas, wow. Back to the heartland. How about you, VA?
Gonzaga, Tennessee, Iowa, Baylor, and I think the Zags. I think it's their year, man.
Yeah. Well, good guys. Well, this is great. Maybe after the tournament we can get back on and we can wrap it
Compare
up.
notes.
Yeah, and I could brag about how well I did. And
Right.
Frank could just say I told you so without giving us a pick.
Yeah,
Right.
I just like to see good games. That's all.
I
You know.
feel you.
Yeah.
I'm like that too. Right.
Exactly. Your team's a
But
good player.
I know as soon as if Kansas gets knocked off, I'm like, why? I mean, Dad,
Yeah,
the whole bracket up. So I feel you.
we'll still be
Yeah.
nice to you.
And you
Well,
start, you start rooting for people that you know and coaches and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then you start, root for the underdogs in some cases too.
Mhm.
So, we'll see. Just have some good games. I
Exactly.
mean, you look at the conference tournaments and some of the buzzer beaters and stuff like that. I mean, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember a year when you had so many shots. And buzzer
Yes.
beaters. I mean, Virginia Tech, went over Clemson, buzzer beater, and some other games were exciting. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's always going to be some crazy finishes. I mean, it's inevitable.
Always.
And
Always.
I love the upsets, but hopefully there's still enough strong teams so that the quality is good at the end. But it usually is. I think last year it was all favorites except for UCLA. So, anyway, guys. Well, look, thanks again for jumping on. You guys probably couldn't beat Clark Kellogg, Barkley, and Shaq on 3-on-3. But if there was a 3-point contest, I would take you 3 over.
Yeah, I like
No.
our chances.
no,
I'm
I
taking
like
Ernie
our
Jones
chances
in the
now.
hole. Huh?
I like our chances now,
Yeah.
and I haven't even played. I like our chances.
I am officially washed up. Probably couldn't throw a rock in the ocean now.
Oh, Brian, you can still shoot it.
Especially when we play half court.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I had a
appreciate
couple
it.
matchups with Kenny Smith. I don't know if the Jet, the way he to that board these days, I like my chances with him.
We're not going to fight Kenny. So,
Yeah.
All right, fellas.
all right, guys.
Hey.
Well, I enjoyed it. Thanks for jumping on.
Enjoy the
Thank you for
tournament,
jumping on,
guys.
too, man.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Okay.
Have a good one.